Hello, and you're welcome to this month's Book Club on Leitrim Daily. My name is Mary Blake, and I'm here today with Hilda King. Hi, Hilda.
Hi, Mary. How are you doing?
And Orlagh Kelly from the Reading Room in Carrick and Shannon. Hi, Orlagh.
Hi, Mary.
Today's book that we're going to discuss. Actually, Orlagh, I'm going to throw it over to you and tell us a little bit about today's book and why you chose it for us.
Yeah, today's book is called Such a Fun Age, and it's by Kiley Reid. It's a debut novel that was published actually this time, January last year, and it got quite a lot of publicity, as did the author. There's a lot of media publicity with this. It's been on my radar since that time, and then it was longlisted for the Booker Prize last year, which can put people off, and I'm well aware of that. But I think it's an interesting premise. What attracted me to it was just the idea that there's so much in this. It's billed as a bit of a comedy, but I'm not sure if that's what I would call it. Of modern America and contemporary America. The overview basically is the starting point is that a young Black woman is in an upper middle class supermarket in America, in Philadelphia, with a child that she's minding, and a customer takes exception to the optics. And the optics are, as the babysitter is Black, as the main protagonist is Emira, and she is with the child that she's minding, and the child is white. She alerts the security guard, and stuff ensues that there's a problem with that, and all the while somebody is filming this interaction, and I just think that's a very interesting starting point of a novel, and it goes from there, and that's, I suppose, all of the reasons why I chose it. Yeah.
And that is the blurb that we learn when we Google this book, or when you told us about it last week or last month. And it was a good jumping off point, but I'm not sure they jumped off in the right direction.
How do you mean? What do you mean? Like what? Well, what direction did you think it was going to go? Well, and then what direction did it go?
I think it became very light in such in a potentially hefty subject matter. Hilda, what did you think from the start?
Yeah.
Did you like the start of it?
I thought it was a great opening. It had a great impact. We were engaged immediately. And it was what the blurb sort of said, straight away you're in there looking at this racist and misogynist event happening. And the story sort of took off there with sort of alternating Emira, the babysitter, with her employer, Alix. Now, like that, I thought, as I went on, I kept sort of waiting for more to evolve from that incident, which was sort of left on the back boiler. And I thought, there was a lot of information about Alix and details about her life and where she was at and where she was thinking, and a lot of equally a lot of information about Emira. But it was nearly losing for me anyway, it nearly got to the stage that I was nearly irritated with Alix's life. It was so shallow and frivolous and full of American sort of white privilege wealth, with parties and, everything shallow anyway. So
these are our two characters. So our two characters are Emira. So Emira is this Black 25-year-old woman who is working for Alix, or Alix, as she was formerly called. So these are our two female protagonists, really, in the book. The world of Alix, Hilda, you mention it as being very superficial, really, is it?
Well, that's what it came across as to me. And obviously the author meant it to come out like that, but I felt she overdid it. I got the point, and as I said, I nearly got irritated because I couldn't. I felt it was I felt she was pushing something else, but I couldn't get it what it was. So I didn't know where the book was going, and that until maybe 2/3 in, and then suddenly, wham bang, it picked up. There was great confrontations. There was great pace to the end. Now I felt the end dropped a little bit off again, but so yeah, I thought it was a very interesting book. It opened my mind to such things as fetishization, which I really hadn't thought much about. I had to pronounce that word very carefully. Where you know, it seemed to me that Alix was trying to overindulge this babysitter so she could sort of own her, and you know, she'd be part of her family. I mean, things like she was saying she was physically sick at the thought that Emira would leave her. Now, I just couldn't get this. I couldn't understand why somebody would feel so strongly about having a babysitter that meant so much to them. I know she thought Emira was great with her daughter. She was what she called a steal. In other words, she had a degree and she had high typing words per minute, which would have suited her. And it took her off the hook as being a mom, and she was great with her daughter. So for all those reasons, I could see why she wanted to keep her.
Can we keep on Alix, that character that Hilda introduced us to? Orlagh. Alix is an interesting character. She's this white middle-class woman who was living in New York but has recently returned with her 2 small daughters to Philadelphia, where she grew up. And what did you think of this character, Orlagh?
Well, I think she's actually, I think she's very interesting, and I think she's very real. I think she's very representative of an age group, older, younger, but of capitalism, that need, that there, even the fact of how she made her money is writing letters. I mean, it's like, you made your money doing what? It seemed like an absurd way to actually garner money than to how she lived her life through social media, how it was important for her to maintain the fallacy that even though she'd moved out of New York, nobody on her social media or her business aspects knew any of this. I think that's a very real representation of a generation who live in a certain way and also aren't aware that they're a product of capitalism, and the idea that all of this freebie, the freebie culture that she was involved in as well. And I think that was very a very honest representation of that world, and that idea of being able to get things for free, or the bottle of wine, the incident over the bottle of wine, how the value that's placed on things, but yet she wouldn't dream necessarily of paying for it. And I think I thought that was quite interesting. And I think that her attachment to Emira is all about this kind of wokeness, of being trendy, of oh my God, I'm down with everybody. I know I can deal with race. Oh my God, you know, I'm not racist. You know, when people say
do you think she hired Emira because she was Black?
I don't know. I don't ever felt that came out in the character at all. I didn't think Alix was quite of that vein. But I think when an event happens that this happened in their lives, where you know they had to deal with it, and then also the incident with her husband on the local television station, it comes to your door, and how real it is. And one of the reasons why I actually didn't mind that incident, I wasn't bothered about that incident in terms of not reappearing until later on in the novel, is that I actually think it's really interesting, because that's, I mean, I'm very conscious too that I'm a white woman in a white community talking about a black racist issues, but I felt that this is something that happens quite often to Black people, routinely and casually. And I thought she explained that really well, and how Emira reacted to that. And then Alix's overreaction to that need to make it okay, was part of all of that complicated awfulness that sort of drives people mad. And the othering, you know, you must approve of me, you know, that was really needy. And I thought that was very representative of the culture and of the lifestyle that Alix lived when she was younger, and then where she moved into New York in that trendy mid-set.
So yes, so that, as I would see it, that incident that we open with in the book of Emira and her friend. Emira and her friend were at a nightclub having a few drinks. They get a call, there's a bit of an emergency, can you come over and mind the kid? So these 2 girls are a little bit tipsy. they are minding this child who's a different color to them, so clearly not their biological child, and they are minding this child in a public place, and a well-meaning passerby thinks this looks suspicious. And these are some of the microaggressions that I suppose that we would see within treading that line of, is this something that has to be reported, or am I racist? I think now people fear being called racist above anything else. I mean, it's a terrible fear. Maybe it's that, as you say, the woke culture and the the need not to appear racist that has made Alix so concerned. She's so horrified to think, oh my God, I'm like, is this like the help? And how do I show that I am not that person? So I think she goes to exhausting lengths to show that she's not that person. Hilda, then Emira, who is the nanny or the childminder, what do you think of her social group and her life outside her work?
I thought she was a very true character. You could feel there was a steadfastness right through the book. When Alix hired her, I just had to look back over that. She actually had no photograph on her site, so she didn't know when she hired her that she was Black. And she the author immediately sort of said, oh, when she opened the door, Alix covered it so well, just, oh, and all that. But yeah, she was at a point in her life where she had finished college. She still was doing transcription typing and babysitting, and that was her main way of having an income, which we're told was not enough to survive on really in America, and she needed to get onto the health system. Again, you're seeing the divide between wealthy and poor, and how much you have to earn to even be on the health system. So she really loved working for Alix and Briar, or minding Briar, but she also had this whole thing going on that she wasn't where she wanted to be in her adult life. It was her friends, her 3 friends had all moved on from college, all got decent jobs and were able to survive pretty well. They had vacations that were paid for. She didn't. They had health systems that backed them up. She was still on her parents' one. Now, what surprised me again was that, despite all that Alix was going on with, Emira didn't really react to any of it. She was sort of solid in herself, and that she just didn't feel all these things that we were told through the narrator in the book. Right through to even, and the going out with their friends. I thought they were great descriptions. The scenes, the nightclub scenes, very real. You were very, in there with their talk on that. Now, some of the Americanisms, I call them, I really was lost. I didn't understand some of them, and I felt that made me understand the book a bit less. That I felt I missed out on some of them. The relationship with Kelly seemed to evolve very nicely. That's the guy that filmed her, and evolved into a relationship. And for most of the book, you feel Kelly is genuine. So I don't know. It was only really at the end that I felt Emira showed her solidness, and her character came out to be. She knew what she wanted, which she found to be an extremely difficult choice, because she had this big relationship with the child, Alix's child, and torn between taking another job on that. But yeah, I think she held through the whole way for me.
What did you think, Orlagh, of the relationship between Kelly and Emira?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was again representative of youth, it felt like a natural progression in a way. I thought it was quite interesting. You could see it evolve without going into too many of a spoiler or anything like that. But I thought that it was a natural, okay relationship. Yeah, I thought he was a bit of a power broker. Again, I think it showed up what Hilda was saying about Emira's personality. There was a calmness to her, like all of this uncertainty was happening within her life. She was coming off the health insurance from her parents, money was an issue, ambition, jobs, you know, all of her friends were doing very well, but she didn't know what direction she was going in. And I think he kind of fed into that, because you never got the full sense that she was I didn't anyway, that she was fully committed to him. She enjoyed it, the relationship was good, but I think she was watchful. That would be my sense of it. And then I suppose because we finished the novel and knowing what we know about Kelly now, it sort of lends that little bit of, there's a sting to him, I think, to be honest. And I think that was, again, it comes into perspective. And I thought she told this story really well, was when Alix is recounting the story of her schoolboy, or the crush that she had in school, and what that incident that happened where the kids came over to the house when she was, and how she related all of that. I think that was a really well told story. And obviously, when you hear it from her perspective and then you hear it from his perspective, I think that was really well done. And then you start to distrust characters, and that's what,
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. I thought as well, the idea, Emira's character, even though it really was it was her story, still she seemed to be a very mild presence. And all this hysteria happening around, with all these white saviors coming in to make life better and to improve her, you know, she kind of bobbed along and rolled with the punches and kind of went with it a little bit, you know, whereas
but she knew herself very well, I thought, because she was adamant that video wouldn't go up. She was, you know, calm about it. She was aware that these things happen. She wanted to actually say, look, you know, this is how I deal with my life. And I thought that was very representative of a strong and a calm personality. She wasn't on social media. She didn't want to be engaging with that. It showed you know, that kind of person, that when she was actually pushed to the wall at the very, like, she takes a lot, and then at the end she just went, right, no more. And I think that was I think that she was a very finely drawn and well drawn character. We have this misconception that you must be ambitious, you must be on social media, you must have a fabulous relationship, you must blah blah blah. And I thought it was actually nice to hear somebody who's just, well, she's middle of the road. Yes, she's a lovely, a nice one, but middle of the road.
And even when she gets an opportunity in a job to you know, when her boss says, oh, nobody ever lasts because they always look for the next job, she kind of goes, but I'm okay here, and it is okay to be okay. We don't always have to be clambering over people to achieve better things or a bigger salary. But as Hilda said, I thought it was interesting that at the age of 25, this character, she is off her parents' health benefits, health insurance, and it is a reason why people at that age in America really have to take up a job they may not like. They really have to earn serious money. I mean, it was interesting. They didn't make a big deal about it, but it was interesting from us non-Americans to really observe that their health system is so dependent on insurance. I thought the backgrounds, Emira's background, the housekeeper's background, or the childminder's background, was not really developed. If she was a 25-year-old girl, she didn't just land in this world in this time of this book. I would have been interested to know more about her family situation. Did I miss that, or did that not happen?
They did give a bit, which was sort of lost as you went on in the book. It was referred to all right, where her parents were, I can't remember the name of the place they lived, but there was a lot of deaf people in the area, and she learned the sign language as a result of that, and that helped her with the transcription, and she got very competent at transcription when people wanted their lectures transferred over and all that. And she did have some siblings and that, but she was the only one, I think, went to college that I remember. So and she didn't want to share the incident with them when it happened. She didn't want her parents to know, but it was very typical, mid-20s, left college, I'm independent. She didn't want them to know, she didn't want them to be dependent on them, and she was really that was her ambition, to get enough money so that she could have her own health benefits. And, you know, she was an adult. She wanted an adult life very desperately. She was ready to...
Alix's family background was kind of interesting. There was some weird inheritance, or they sued some undertaker, or so they kind of came in. They were nouveau riche. They kind of splashed their money around, and maybe that didn't sit comfortably on her either. So I thought that I was more interested in those little backstories than I was actually in the story, to be honest. I was kind of looking to get, I thought there was more meat there. That I found those two worlds, because we had the kind of Sex and the City world in New York, and then we had this young party people in Philadelphia. Neither world which I would have, you know, any huge interest in, to be honest. I didn't find them very interesting worlds for me to oversee. But yeah, I thought it was full of well-meaning people who probably should have just kept back a little bit.
You didn't feel it gave you an insight into sort of that kind of the culture of either racism or the social class of America? Or
I suppose in the sense that it showed me that it is that death by a thousand cuts kind of racism. It's not the, you know, it's not those huge issues. It's this small, everyday throwaway comments, little things, like the fact that Alix was so proud of herself to have so many black people at her Thanksgiving dinner. Like, she's kind of going, oh, this is kind of cool because I have these, you know, 1, 2, counting up how many black people she had at her Thanksgiving dinner. So I suppose it did show that. But yeah, I wasn't mad about the book, to be honest with you. I didn't love it at all. You know, okay. I wasn't. What did you think yourselves, Orlagh?
I thought it was young. I thought it was very representative. I was engaged. I really was. I was engaged with it. I liked that that change in perspective. I thought she moved quite seamlessly between the young Emira and this sort of strange character who's nearly like some hybrid of the modern world of Alix. And it's money, you know, it's all of that kind of funny connections. I thought that was really, really interesting. I thought she got that really well. I liked Emira very much as a character. I thought she was really understated and strong in that kind of I suppose, you know, okay-ish type of a way, and I like that. And I thought it showed up Emira to racism and to class wars, and how people are probably trying too hard, and we make so many mistakes by just, as you said, death by it. When you watch how this happens to people all the time, and then you're overcompensating for this, all of those cuts. I just thought it was so nicely nuanced, and I thought the relationships were very clever and mixed up, and that's life. That's how it goes. That's how people are, and they overcomplicated things that are not there.
And Alix wasn't a bad person.
Not at all. Not at all. She
was well-meaning and daft. You know, what did you think, Hilda, overall?
Yeah, well, if the book was trying to portray Alix as, you know, a wealthy middle class, almost featherbrain sounds wrong, but she was so full of her own self-aggrandizement. It certainly came across to such an extent, as I say, that it nearly irritated me. So that point of the book was well developed, and maybe overdeveloped, because all the conversations, even with her friends, you know, oh, the goldfish that's died, she texts her friends, I need an urgent meeting, will I ask Emira to buy a goldfish? Like, I thought, what, you know, what's life about? Like, if you have to text your friends to find out, you know, you're a married woman with 2 children, you know, things like that. I just thought, where's this going, you know?
And did you think that climax at the climax with the film crew, do you think that was credible at all?
I liked it up to the point where Zara, her friend, overheard Alix's friend saying, this is going to be 100% in, you know, about you, and it'll promote your book. When Emira came down and did her bit, I thought all that was credible, right up to the bit where she left and she asked her friend to make a show to distract them while she said goodbye to Briar. I thought that was a little bit, I just, yeah. I mean, I can actually follow on. That was another little gripe I had. I thought there was too much of her interaction with Briar. The child was a 2-year-old, and a little bit is fine, but not a whole page of, you know, dialogue between, you know, it's not, it just doesn't grab me. I love children and everything else, but I just didn't see the whole point of that. And then at the very end, Emira's last words are something like, Alix, you've got to like your child, otherwise she's going to see that you don't. You've got to pretend to like your. And I thought, where did that come from? You know, those bits like that I thought were clunky. They were just sort of. I think the author was probably overambitious to get a lot into this book, and possibly some of it just hung there rather than being developed more. You know, that was the way it was for me. I certainly came away with the whole scene of wealthy white privilege and how they can impose their whole idea on a black person, and you know, you're mine and wear my uniform and it's so cute, this tradition sort of thing. You know, I could see all that, but I would have liked it, maybe for me, I would have liked it more sculpted. I think American audience, American readers might read that much better than a middle class Irish person, white, could read it. You know, like there was other things like an Everleen. He wore an Everleen jumper or whatever. I thought, what is an Everleen jumper? You know, and then I looked it up, and it's actually a high class, high quality brand. A high quality jumper that has no brand. And you know, things like, but this would mean something to Americans. And she was somebody who'd watched, what was the Ellen show or something. What's the Ellen show, you know? So they lost me on those things, and that sort of irritated me. I just felt.
But I think if they try to make it too generic, they lose something too. I sometimes, because I'm reading a book now, The Girl with the Louding Voice. It's a book set in Nigeria, and there's things that I know I'm not getting, but I'm glad they're there because they're washing over me, and it is not my world. It doesn't have to be my world, and I don't have to get it all. But
yeah, I get that, Mary. But I think context is one thing, but when you use brand names like Everlane or Timberlands, or you know, Oped and things like that, then you're or the Ellen show, whatever she was said, then you're assuming that, or either that, or she should have put in a little dictionary. You know, this is. But I get what you mean. No, I think like Toni Morrison, other black writers, they use context and you get it. You don't have to know exactly what that is, but you know, using those things sort of. I think it shortchanges me.
It was nearly product placement at that stage. Orlagh, have you anything to come in on what Hilda was saying?
No, I mean, I agree. I have to say, when I didn't notice it so much in this book, interestingly, but I do find that does annoy me in writing. If there's too many modern cultural references that I would consider easy fade away, like the Ellen show, that in 10 years' time, are even Americans going to remember? You know, so I do agree with you. That is quite annoying. All right, yeah. But
and I think the thing about the uniform, I like the way she put in little things that nearly tripped Alix up. I mean, the uniform was never meant to be a uniform. It's just something that began to happen. It was just those sweatshirts were there just pulling on you if you want to save your clothes from getting messed up. And the next thing, Alix was looking at this thinking, I have this black childminder nanny who comes to my house and puts on a uniform with my name on it, you know. So I suppose, again, it's the optics of it. It was never intended. And I think with race in America and all we have seen last year with Black Lives Matter and all the important work that you wonder will it ever be done, it is interesting to see those little subtleties where somebody who's gone out of their way not to be racist and to have black friends in their company, are doing those very things, are inadvertently, you know, that those little microaggressions are there, and you know.
That's why I thought the book was actually very, very subtle. But for somebody, as I say, like me, it was too subtle. You know, it was so subtle that Alix seemed to be very nice to her babysitter and doing all the right things. But when, well, we'll say when Kelly, the boyfriend, sort of took out the things she was doing. Oh, so you're wearing her T-shirt every day, and whose name is on it? Her name, you know, and all this, and you don't even know it's her birth. You know, he pointed out so many things. So, you know, you only see then how, what's the word, sort of ingratiating the whole thing is, and how, you know, that it's all very subtle, but it's a power trip at the same time.
Interesting how we learned to know that Kelly had, you know, most of his friends were black, most of his ex-girlfriends were black. There was that Kelly was a white man, and what does that mean? We don't really know what that means here, but you know, they're talking about, you know, fetishness and things that we didn't see, and that Emira didn't see, the character. But when it was pointed out to her that this white boyfriend of yours always has a black girlfriend, you know, she was uncomfortable with that. So I'm aware that here we are, 3 white women talking about this in, you know, in County Leitrim. You know, it's a world that maybe we don't understand, and we should make an effort to. And yeah, I don't know if this is the book to do it for me, though.
It's probably not. It's not. I don't think it's poised as that. You know, as the educational kind of fight. I think it is the subtleties and the nuance and how it happens all the time, so easy. And there's this woke culture that, as you say, like here's Kelly, the white man, pointing out to the black woman of all these things that are happening to her, are being done on her by her white employer, and you're thinking, you know, again, that raises the question for, I think, from Emira's mind. Well, I'm not having a problem with it. It's a jumper I'm wearing, you know. So there's all of those layers upon layers, as you say. Oh, we can't. And Kelly as a character, in terms of his preference for always and only associating with black people, I don't know. I don't understand that either. It's something, I suppose, that you'd have to really analyze in the character within. But I think it was a book for me that I just thought it was representative of a time, the time of America now, but it's particularly a cultural thing, and it's very rich, kind of privileged America in terms of their attitudes to race and youth. And again, you know, that kind of capitalist culture runs through it, and that I think that came out with Alix a lot, as how does she cope with life when, you know, she's really just a construct. And I think that's quite I think that's quite an interesting thing. But it was I suppose a light book. While I said at the start that I wouldn't think it was a comedy, it was certainly a lighter book, but a dip of the toe in it.
I have to say, despite all I did say, I found it very interesting, and I liked the theme. I feel more informed because of reading it, which I think is a good thing. And I think it was a very interesting book, very different book from what we've been reading, indeed. But yeah, no, I thought overall it was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And we didn't talk about Alix's friends in New York. I mean, they were straight out of Sex and the City, weren't they?
Yes.
But they were good friends, and they were, you know, they were a solid bunch of friends, and they could ring each other and moan and complain about things. But yeah, superficial enough, you know, the world they lived in.
But very representative, again, as you say, they were good friends. I mean, you know, certainly I can have a tendency with the characters in books to discard them because they're either a certain class, or there's a certain privilege, or they're having, and that's why I liked this book, because I think she made even their vacuousness human. You know, that, you know, sitting down, having that glass of wine, telling each other those stories, you know, they're less empty vessels. There is something there that that you can empathize with a little bit, and that's why I liked it in that way, because I think she describes that well to them. She humanizes them, you know. And
so contemporary, with Alix's husband being an anchor on a local TV station in Philadelphia, and all the social media stuff. And the fact, as you said at the beginning, Orla, that Alix's career is is something she invented, from writing letters and probably blogging and Instagramming and all that world. Unusual that the younger character, Emira, at 25, didn't have an Instagram account, but maybe they had to have those things to make everything fit in. And there are coincidences happening. You know, there's a few clunky coincidences there with Kelly, isn't there?
Yes.
But you know, we got it. It had to happen somehow. But I felt that was a little bit clunky. Hilda.
Yeah, I have to bring up about the end of the book, where I thought maybe she should have finished it, where Emira sort of walked off into the sunset with her new job. When she went back then and told, the author went back and told us that this letter that Kelly, she had written to Kelly and had ruined her life, well, ruined her high school life, had never been sent. He'd never seen it. I mean, it sort of said, I thought, oh God, the whole book was based on this.
And she actually knew that. She knew that.
And she knew that. And again, it added to that's why I think she put in too much. It added to the whole personality of Alix, who was this person that wanted to live with this pretension or falsehood that he had wronged her hugely by giving this letter to a friend, and then the party thing happened. So I just thought, oh God, this is like the beginning of another book, not the end of this book. But I just felt it undermined the book in a way, because we all lived with that right through the book, that she had been, well, we weren't sure, I suppose, actually. Kelly denied it, but this was her story to her friends, which she told with great enthusiasm and gusto, that this is what happened. So I just don't know about that ending. And the other little quirk I have is that she went out with the quote that Kelly had said to Alix when he was breaking up with her. Emira says it to Alix when she leaves, that our paths won't ever, hopefully never connect or something. I thought, oh please, I thought you could leave that. I just thought that was clunky. Yeah. But that ending really something.
Interesting for a first book by this young writer. Is she writing anything else? Have we heard anything else from her, Orla?
Yeah, she's currently writing her second novel at the moment. Yeah, and she's writing blogs and writes for a New York paper, I believe. So
this has been gobbled up. America loves it. It's been really popular, and it was Reese Witherspoon's book of the month. I didn't know there was such a thing, but just from looking it up, so I get that it's a really important book in America, in modern America now. So hats off to her. I wouldn't be mad about it personally, but I guess I mightn't be the target audience anyway. But yeah, so good. So thank you for that choice of book. Anything else to say in that book before we go on to just chat quickly about a few other books?
I did think it was very, very well structured. You could see, there was 4 parts. There was a hook at the end of each part, it's very readable, and yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting.
I've talked to a few people that would have read it, younger people now, younger than all us young people here, and in their 20s, and it's kind of split between liking and disliking it, because I kind of thought that's the as you say, that maybe possibly the target market is younger than us. And yes, split. Somebody was very emphatic that this is not representative of young people at all. No. Very interesting that, but for me, I think it worked on a lot of levels. It was a light, accessible read, and I think there was some heavy issues dealt with. Yeah, some clunky, but and those coincidences were just up there with the sacred scripture.
Absolutely. And I don't know. Like, I can understand how young people might be a little bit like, excuse me, this is not how we behave. This is not how we talk to each other and high five girlfriend and dance and shake our booties in the shop when we're out with a child. I don't know. You could ask me 30 years ago, maybe I'd have said, yeah, this is exactly what I do. But for now, no. And so that's our choice. What a fun, such a fun age by Kiley Reid. Reading anything else at the moment, Orla?
I have to interrupt you though for 1 second, Mary. I noticed you didn't ask us to rate this book.
Well, you know something, Orla. I was thinking last week you were talking, and we can, listeners, we can all see each other here in a little square. And every time I say marks out of 5, I can see Orla Kelly's shoulders going up to her ears, and she hates it. And I was listening to a webinar with Una Mannion recently, and talking about her brilliant new book that's gotten such good praise, you know, and people were talking about, you know, you can easily go on Goodreads and say, this was the worst book I read in my life. And it's so easy for us. And you have to realize the work that people put into this. And who the hell am I? I never wrote anything in my life, you know, to just say, oh, no, it's a 1 out of 5 for me. But if you guys want to mark it,
no.
I
never want to mark them. No.
I know. Well, let's make that our new rule. Who are we? It's just our point of view. But I wouldn't have been mad about this book personally. But so I just didn't want to put it into stars.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Look, it's a difficult one, as you say. But it's very hard.
Orla, it's very easy to give a book 5 out of 5. If I think a book is 5 out of 5, I mark it. You know, I really love to declare that, but I just feel a bit kind of mean otherwise. What's coming out now? Any Leitrim books coming out, Orla? Or what are you reading?
Well, what I was reading this January actually was I read all the the trilogy of Ragnar Johansson, and I don't tend to read crime. But I was in a bit of I think I might have said a reading slump, and I just picked up one of his, and it flew. They're dark. They are dark, and I actually read the second one first by accident, and I'm glad I did, because when I went back to do the first one, I was glad that I had got the sequence wrong. But they're dark, but they're flawed. You know, I don't read crime books at all, but I was thinking, oh, for God's sake, the detective is rubbish here. But still, at the same time, Iceland is such a fabulous character within it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was a great way to just relax into reading and get back into it. And I'm currently reading, actually, the aforementioned Una Mannion's Crooked Tree. And it's shaping up really lovely. She's she has a lovely style that just beckons you right into her. Oh, it's very brilliant. Well done. Yeah, really liking it. I'm
dying to get stuck into that one too. That it sounds brilliant, and you know, you'd be really plugging for her. She's a local woman, and it's her first book, and it's great to see it so well regarded. So that's fantastic. It's fabulous,
and there's a lot coming out in terms of that. So there's loads. Like there's a biography by Carrick. She's from Derry, and she's writing about nature, but also it's a memoir as well. And then also from Sligo, I don't know if you've heard of her, Louise Kennedy. She's a chef, and she's bringing out her first collection of short stories in April. So there's quite a bit coming, but it's at a different pace obviously now. And Kevin McManus, who normally contributes with us here, he published another book of poetry yesterday, which was the 1st of February. So yeah, he's prolific. And Colleen McCarthy is bringing out her second book. She brought out her first book that she wrote during lockdown 1, and she's had a few other lockdowns to bring out another one. So she's bringing out another one. Should be with me this week, I think. Hopefully somebody's going to drop it in. So yeah.
Fantastic. So you're still sending books out, posting books, or are you?
Absolutely, I'm posting, I'm delivering. I've been on highways and byways of the Leitrim roads, no places that I never knew existed. It's nice. Wow. It's nice to just throw that around. But yeah.
Brilliant. So so anybody can just ring you up and place an order, and they'll have it in a few days. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'm reading The Girl with the Louding Voice. I mentioned it there.
Who's it by?
Book, Abi Dare, a Nigerian writer. Okay. And it is absolutely fantastic. It's written in pidgin English. And so you need to get your head a little bit into the rhythm of it, but it's fantastic. Oh, she's a beautiful character. It's about a 14-year-old Nigerian girl who is from a very poor situation, and what happens in her life. And it's so funny, and it's sad, and it has absolutely everything. I would recommend it to anybody. The Girl with the Louding Voice. So that's really kept me going over the last few days. So
Great.
good job, guys. All we have to do now is find out what's our homework for next month, Orlagh.
I don't call it that, Mary. The book that I've chosen this time, we're back to an Irish writer, and it's Donal Ryan and his new publication, just published there in September last year, called Strange Flowers. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll just read you just a blurb of it. Donal Ryan, as you probably know, has published quite a few. He's long-listed. He's a NENA writer, and he teaches creative writing in UL, University of Limerick. He's been shortlisted as well for the Booker Prize, and has won the Irish Book Awards Novel of the Year. So, The Spinning Heart, and he's got The Thing About September, All We Should Know, and From a Low and Quiet Sea. So this is his most recent one, and I'll just read you just from the back of it. This is the extraordinary story of a family devastated by a sudden disappearance and transformed by a miraculous return. In 1973, 20-year-old Moll Gladney takes a morning bus from her rural home and disappears. Bewildered and distraught, Paddy and Kit must confront an unbearable prospect that they will never see their daughter again. 5 years later, Moll returns. What and who she brings with her will change the course of her family's life forever. So, intriguing, unusual, set in the 70s.
It's set in Ireland. He writes pretty much in
set in Ireland,
rural Ireland setting, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Have you read it? Have either of you read it?
No, not that one.
No,
have you, Hilda? No. Okay,
not that one. No, I've read his previous one.
Yeah, me too. So that'll be interesting to read Donal Ryan's Strange Flower. So us three Strange Flowers will love you and leave you for this month. Thank you for listening. Anything else? Are we ready to wrap up, girls?
Yeah.
Good to go.
Over and out. Thank you very much for listening.